"Do you tutor, Mr. Cole?" Malik blinked. "Not for a long time," he said. "You should," the kid replied, eyes wide. "That was awesome." Malik chuckled, not dismissively, just surprised. The next day during third period, Mr. Kinney's entire demeanor had shifted. No biting remarks, no sarcastic jabs, no random cold calls. He kept his gaze locked on the board, his voice measured, more focused than usual. No one said anything out loud, but every student felt the change. After class, Dylan approached him. "Mr. Kinney, what Mr. Cole did yesterday, he used the same chain rule method you taught us last week, right?" Kinney nodded slightly. "That's right." Dylan paused. "Only," he explained it better. Kinney didn't respond, but what had truly left everyone stunned wasn't the math. It was what Malik had said afterward. Malik Cole hadn't meant to draw attention. Being the center of the room had never sat well with him, not as a teenager, not now. So when students started lingering by the maintenance room just to talk, and teachers began giving him long, thoughtful glances in the halls, it unsettled him. He kept his head down, continued his usual routine, restocked paper towels, fixed a leak in the locker room, disinfected tables after lunch. Still, he felt it, the way eyes followed him differently now. Not with pity or indifference, but with curiosity, reflection, maybe even a kind of overdue respect. That afternoon, Principal Ramirez asked him to stop by the main office. Malik walked in still wearing his gloves, uniform damp from unclogging a sink behind the cafeteria. He removed his cap respectfully. Ramirez leaned in, voice low but sincere. "Malik, can I ask, did you study engineering or something similar?" Malik hesitated, looking down like he was brushing dust off an old part of himself. "Purdue," he said finally, "mechanical engineering, full scholarship." The principal sat back, eyebrows lifted. "You serious?" "Yeah," Malik replied softly. "Had plans, life got complicated." And for the first time in years, he let himself speak it out loud. He'd grown up in South Bend, curious about everything that moved. Gears, circuits, hydraulics, anything he could dismantle and understand. His mom, Lorraine, raised him and two sisters while working double shifts at a packaging plant, still managing to read to them every night. She used to say, "Education was armor, the one thing no one could take from you. Books first, always. The world will try to lock the doors, but if you've got your own key, they can't stop you." Malik had earned that key. Valedictorian, winner of the statewide tech fair, and then that full ride to Purdue. By his first semester, he was already helping classmates through calculus labs. Professors recognized his name on rosters and remembered it. But during his second year at Purdue, Malik got the kind of phone call that reshapes your life in one breath. His mother had collapsed at her job. By the time he made it to the hospital, doctors were already saying it was advanced cancer, the kind that doesn't wait. When he saw her, she was weak, barely able to stay awake. "I'll handle it," she whispered, trying to protect him even then. "Don't drop out, don't come back." But he couldn't stay away. He left campus thinking it was temporary. A short pause, one semester turned into two. He picked up anything he could. Unloading freight at a distribution center, stocking shelves overnight, mopping floors during the graveyard shift at a grocery chain. School slowly drifted into the background. So did the dream. When his mom passed, what was left was chaos. No apartment, no money, no professors calling to check in, no one asking why he hadn't returned. "I really thought I'd make it back," Malik told Ramirez, voice low. "Just for a little while, you know, but time moves on whether you're ready or not." The principal didn't speak. The story wasn't dramatic. It was life, honest, heavy, unvarnished. Back in his apartment, Malik kept an old box beneath his bed with the remains of that former life. A faded Purdue hoodie, a calculator with his name scratched on the back, and a photo of him and his mom taken during orientation, both of them smiling like they knew exactly where they were headed. He never threw it away, never opened it either, until now, when it all came flooding back. That evening, he sat alone on the back steps of his small building, sipping tea from a dented thermos, watching as the streetlights flickered on one by one. He hadn't thought about calculus in years, not since his last tutoring session before everything unraveled, and now, somehow, it had returned, like a voice from a past life whispering that maybe it wasn't over. But it wasn't just one setback that knocked him off course. It was the chain of decisions that followed. He'd made a promise to himself back then, take a short break, help his family, return stronger. But reality doesn't pause for intentions, especially not ones built on hope. After his mom died, Malik moved back to South Bend, doing what he could to hold things together. His sisters were still in school, and the bills never stopped coming. There was no outreach from Purdue, no counselor asking if he needed help. He took whatever work kept the lights on. Loading docks, cleaning retail spaces, doing overnight security for a warehouse. School faded, a little more with every month. At first he still tried. He'd call the admissions office now and then, ask about reinstatement, transferring credits. They'd email him forms, and he'd start filling them out. But he never sent them. Something always came up. Then came the breaking point. It was a cold Monday in late fall when he got a call from a man named Ray Daniels, who owned a small flooring business near town. "You've got a good head on your shoulders," Ray had told him. "Don't waste it, I'll train you myself." Malik felt hope stir again. It felt real, like a door opening. But the day before he was supposed to start, his youngest sister, Kayla, got into a fight at school. A stupid argument that turned physical. She'd broken another girl's nose. They were threatening to expel her. There was no one else to show up for her, no parent to advocate. So Malik went, and just like that, he missed day one. Ray handed the job to someone else. That was it. A door that could have changed his life closed without a sound. After that, he stopped chasing dreams and started chasing stability. Days blurred into months, months into years. Towns changed, jobs changed, but the weight of what could have been never fully left. He'd never had a record, never caused trouble, just kept his head down and made it through. By the time Malik Cole landed in Dayton in his early 40s, he wasn't chasing a fresh start, just something steady. The school district offered health coverage, a predictable rhythm, and quiet summers. When the janitorial position opened, he didn't hesitate. There was a certain peace in the repetition, sweeping hallways, fixing leaks, emptying bins. The students barely noticed him. The teachers offered polite nods, and that was enough. He wasn't there for connection. He didn't need anyone asking questions. He came in, cleaned up, and left before the last bell rang. But the numbers had never let go. Every now and then, walking past a math class, he'd catch sight of an equation scrawled across the board and solve it mentally without meaning to. It was automatic, like reflex, ingrained from another life. At night, he'd go home to his small kitchen, cook something simple, grilled chicken, rice, a few vegetables, and then, just before bed, he'd sometimes pull an old engineering textbook from behind the cereal boxes and flip through a few pages just to see if the knowledge was still there. It always was, but he never had a reason to show it until the day Mr. Kinney tried to make a joke out of him. And now, something was shifting, not just at school, but inside. He thought about the students waiting outside the supply closet just to ask questions. He thought about Dylan Ray's, handing him a folded worksheet and asking, "Mr. Cole, I tried solving this one. Can you check it?" And Malik had done it, gently, pointing out the missteps without making him feel small. When Dylan finally got it, the smile wasn't just from understanding, it was from being seen. That kind of moment stays with you, but not everyone was happy. Mr. Kinney, for one, had grown noticeably colder, quieter. Students noticed, teachers noticed. There's something unsettling about being outshined in front of your own class by someone you never thought to look twice at. It rattled him. He didn't lash out, but his tone sharpened. He avoided Malik's name in the lounge. He wasn't used to being the one overshadowed, especially not by the guy who took out the trash. But fate had another twist, and this one had nothing to do with the classroom. The video didn't stay within the walls of Franklin High. It started small, a repost on a student-run page titled, "When the Janitor Schools the Calculus Teacher." Then it hit a local education group. By Saturday night, it had crossed state lines. The internet lit up, not with jokes, but admiration. "This guy explains better than my professor. Somebody give this man a class of his own." Proof you never know who's walking. Malik, meanwhile, had no idea any of this was happening. He didn't own a smartphone. He still carried a flip phone and showed up Monday morning like he always did, tightening screws on a broken paper towel dispenser. In the girls' restroom, but something was off. Teachers paused mid-sentence when he passed. Students nodded, not out of habit, but out of recognition. A few even smiled like they were seeing him for the first time. "Hey, mister." Cole, a girl called out as he passed the media center. "You're kind of famous now." He chuckled, not unkindly. "Don't believe everything you see online." But when he turned the corner, there was Dylan, flanked by two classmates, one of them holding a calculus book, pages dog-eared, a problem highlighted in pink. "Would you go through this with us?" Dylan asked. Malik looked at them, puzzled. "You have a free period." "We made time," the boy replied. And just like that, Malik Cole sat cross-legged in the hallway of a public high school, between lockers and science fair posters, walking three teenagers through a multivariable equation. Step by step, line by line, not lecturing, just talking with them. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But something meaningful was unfolding quietly at the far end of the hallway. Someone caught it on camera, though no one told Malik. He wouldn't have liked that. Back in the front office, Principal Ramirez was on a call with someone from the district board. Yes, that's right. Malik Cole been part of the staff for 6 years. No, not faculty. He works in facilities. He paused, listening. Unorthodox. I'd say he's just been overlooked. Meanwhile, in the staff lounge, Mr. Kinney sat reading an email forwarded by a parent. No greeting, no commentary, just a link to the now viral video and the phrase, "Thought this might interest you." He didn't open it, just closed the laptop and stared out the window. Later that afternoon, Ramirez called Malik into the office again and motioned to a chair. Malik remained standing. The board reached out. The principal began. "They're wondering if you'd consider leading a small after-school tutoring group, voluntary, low-key, just a pilot program." Malik didn't respond right away. "You'd be compensated, of course," Ramirez added. "It wouldn't change your current role. It'd just give you a chance to pass on something you clearly still carry." Malik looked down at his hands rough from years of labor, worn but steady. "I haven't taught in a long time," he said. "But you never stop knowing," the principal replied, his voice gentle, not pushing. Just a door opened. "I'll think about it," Malik said. That night, he slid the old cardboard box from under his bed, the one with the Purdue sweatshirt, the weathered transcripts, and the orientation photo of him and his mother. He hadn't touched it in over a decade. He laid everything out on the table. The edges were curled, the ink slightly faded, but the meaning hadn't dulled. That's the thing about knowledge. It doesn't disappear, it just waits. He didn't care about going viral, didn't care about likes or headlines. But the idea that he could still matter to someone, that lingered. While many were amazed, not everyone welcomed the spotlight he now carried. The changes started subtly with the students. They were the first to shift. Kids who used to walk past him without a glance now stopped to say hello. Some asked for help with their assignments between periods. By the end of the second week, a small group had unofficially formed what they jokingly called Cole Hours. After school, they'd gather in the library, calculators out, notebooks open, listening intently as Malik explained concepts with a clarity that stunned even the most skeptical. Soon, the faculty took notice. Mrs. Landon from physics was the first to drop by and watch. "You've got something special," she told him softly, "and I don't just mean your way with equations," but others stayed quiet. Mr. Kinney, in particular, hadn't said a word since the incident in the classroom. He acted like nothing had changed, but the tightness in his tone said otherwise. He avoided eye contact, gave clipped responses, and never mentioned the word calculus. During a parent-teacher night, when a mother brought up Malik's influence on her son's sudden interest in math, Kinney said, "It's good they're engaged. Let's just be careful not to confuse mentorship with instruction." It sounded respectful, but the undertone was sharp, and everyone felt it. Ramirez didn't let it slide. He pulled Kinney into his office one morning and spoke clearly. "I know this stings," he said, "but Malik didn't humiliate you. He lit a fire in them. That's not a threat. It's a gift." Kinney shifted in his seat but said nothing. "He's not certified," Kinney had muttered, but Ramirez met his stare calmly. He may not have a license, but he's more educated than most realized. And more importantly, he's connecting with students in a way none of us have managed. 2. Kinney opened his mouth, but nothing came out. There was no argument left. Meanwhile, Malik stayed on course. He never asked for recognition, never sought a title or perks. But when the principal quietly offered a small stipend to continue the after-school tutoring, Malik agreed. Not for the pay, but because it felt like the right thing to do. Soon he began carrying a slim binder wherever he went, filled with handwritten notes, clean worksheets, and challenging practice problems. During lunch breaks, he'd find a quiet spot in the corner of the cafeteria and jot down formulas from memory, occasionally nodding to a student who passed and greeted him with a smile. "Hey, Mr. C," they'd say, and he'd tip his head in return. One afternoon near the vending machines, Layla, the student who'd originally recorded the viral clip, stopped him. "Did you ever want to be a teacher?" she asked. Malik paused before answering. "I wanted to design things. Teaching came later, maybe, but life had other plans." She handed him a new mechanical pencil, still in the wrapper. "You're doing both now?" He smiled, soft and genuine. "Thanks." But beneath all the growing goodwill, tension quietly simmered. Most parents were supportive, grateful even. But one anonymous message sent to the board questioned everything. Is it appropriate for a janitor to be tutoring students? Is he certified? Was he cleared for educational instruction? Ramirez didn't hesitate. He's a vetted employee of the district. He's broken no rules. And if the concern were sincere, they would have spoken to me directly. He never mentioned the complaint to Malik, but Malik sensed something had shifted. Not hostility, just discomfort. Some people weren't sure where to place him now that he didn't neatly disappear into the background. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Kinney stepped into the library during one of Malik's sessions. He didn't speak, just stood off to the side and watched as Malik explained integrals to 4 students gathered around a table. After about 10 minutes, he cleared his throat. "Mind if I sit in?" he asked. Malik looked up, his expression calm. He nodded to the empty chair. "As long as you don't mind learning something." The students chuckled, just enough to ease the moment. Kinney gave a small grin. For once, it wasn't bitter. They sat together that afternoon, exchanging few words, but something had begun to shift. Still, Malik wasn't chasing recognition. He had no interest in status or proving anyone wrong. For Malik Cole, standing at a whiteboard in the library with curious eyes turned toward him, it was never about redemption. It wasn't revenge, it wasn't legacy. It was presence showing up, for them, for the kids who reminded him of the boy he used to be, quiet, curious, unsure where he fit. Every Tuesday and Thursday, just after the final bell rang, a corner of the library came alive with whispered questions, laughter, and the scratch of pencils against paper. Students who once dreaded math now leaned in, eager to tackle problems. Not because Malik had all the answers, but because he made them believe they could find the answers themselves. That's what stayed. There was Miles, a freshman who'd nearly flunked algebra, now solving quadratic equations with growing confidence. And Kiara, once convinced she wasn't a math person, now leading Saturday study sessions for her younger cousins using Malik's notes. He didn't stand at the front. He sat with them. He listened before he explained. He asked questions before he offered answers. And in doing so, he gave them more than knowledge. He gave them belief. And little by little, more teachers began stopping in, not to supervise, but to quietly observe how Malik was managing to do what many struggled with. Mrs. Landon asked if she could borrow some of his analogies for her lessons. Coach Ramirez wondered if he'd be willing to help organize a summer readiness group for new students entering the 9th grade. Even Mr. Kinney, once so guarded, began appearing regularly. Not every session, but often enough to notice. He'd quietly slide an extra practice problem onto the table, occasionally offer a few encouraging words to the students. The sharpness in his tone had faded. There was something different in his posture now, a softening. One afternoon, after the kids had packed up and left, Kinney lingered at the board. "You know," he said, staring at the scribbled equations, "I used to think teaching made me significant, like it gave me authority." Malik said nothing. He didn't need, but you reminded me what it's really about, Kinney added. Just being there, showing up when it matters. Malik simply nodded. We all lose our way sometimes. He never carried resentment. He didn't need it. About a month later, Principal Ramirez called him in again. The school board had floated a proposal, turn the sessions into an official enrichment class next semester. Not for credits, just a space to help students reconnect with their confidence. There'll be red tape, Ramirez warned, but if you're open to it. Malik shook his head gently. I appreciate it, he said, but I'd rather keep it how it is. Let them come because they want to, not because they have to. Ramirez nodded, no argument. Then we'll support you however we can. The story didn't stop at the school doors. A local journalist reached out to cover it. Malik agreed, but kept the conversation short. No dramatic origin story, no self-promotion. I'm just helping them see what's already in them, he said. Sometimes it just takes time to find it. When spring came, Franklin High hosted its annual student showcase. Science experiments, art walls, music performances filled the gym. But in a quiet corner near the exit, a table labeled Cole's Corner stood out. It was lined with handwritten reflections, dozens of notes from students. Not about equations, but about trust, clarity, and belief. Over and over again, the message repeated. He didn't give us the answers. He made us believe we could find them. By the end of the night, no one was asking, isn't he the janitor? They were saying, that's Mr. Cole. He didn't wear a tie, didn't give a speech. He just stood beside the table, smiled, and thanked each student who stopped by. That evening, back at his apartment, he pulled out the old Purdue hoodie from under his bed. He didn't wear it, just folded it carefully, placed it in a new bin, and tucked in a folder filled with student thank you notes beside it. That was the moment he understood. Legacy wasn't about credentials. It was about what you leave behind in the hearts and minds of others. He hadn't needed to finish a degree to teach. He hadn't needed a classroom to lead. He just needed to show up with consistency and care, and that's exactly what he planned to keep doing. Thanks for spending time with Malik's story. If it stirred something in you, if it reminded you of someone who saw your potential or someone you might be overlooking, share it. Because sometimes the brightest minds are hidden in the quietest corners.